Okay. So yesterday we have talked about how to represent complex logic using decision tree and decision table. Today we will be talking about this formal system specification concept. Now, formal techniques, they have emerged as like a central issue in software engineering, and they have emerged because that importance of precise specification precise specification, then modeling. We need to model something, right, before implementing that thing. Then verification, these all are recognized to be important in almost every engineering discipline, be it electronics background, mechanical background. In order to develop something, in order to implement something, we first specify that thing, then we model that thing, then we build a prototype, we verify that, and then I build the final product. So formal methods, they do what? They provide us with tools to like precisely describe a system and show that a system is correctly implemented. And when do we say that a system is correctly implemented? We say that a system is correctly implemented when it satisfies certain given specifications, right? So these specifications of a system, like the specification, suppose the client specifies certain specifications which they want the system to perform. So these specifications should be said to the analyst, and the analyst will transfer this specification to the development team like this. So the specifications that the system is expected to correctly implement, these can be given either as a list of its desirable properties. This specification can be given as a list of properties that I will do a system who will show these properties and all. This approach we will refer to as the property oriented approach. And we can also specify the system as an abstract model of the system. Now, this is known as model-oriented approach. When we talk about formal system specification, two approaches are there. One is property-oriented approach, another is model-oriented approach. Now, we will first discuss a few basic concepts in formal specification. Then we will go on to these approaches. Okay. So first, let us understand what is a formal technique. What is a formal specification actually? Okay. So definitely a formal technique is a mathematical model. And it will specify the hardware or the software system, and also it will verify whether a specification is realizable or not. That will, what these mathematical models will do, first it will specify the hardware or the software systems. Then it will verify whether a specification is realizable or not. And it will also verify that an implementation, whether it satisfies its specification or not, which is very important. So formal technique is a mathematical model which will specify the hardware and the software system, which will verify whether a specification is possible or not. That is, whatever the client will want, each and everything maybe cannot be implemented. So first it will specify also that what you are wanting from the system, whether it is possible or not. And it will, if it is possible, it will verify whether the implementation, after implementing that concept, whether it has satisfied the specification or not. So the mathematical basis of a formal method, it is definitely provided by some language. Whenever you do any mathematical like language, you learn it. Like in case of database, you learned the relational algebra. So whenever you have learned that, there was some specification language in order to learn that. Here also, the formal method, the formal techniques which we are talking about, they are provided by specification language. And this formal specification language, it consists of two sets. One is known as SIN, another is known as SEM, and there is a relationship set between them. So this formal specification language, there is two sets. One set is known as SIN, which means syntactic domain. Another is known as SEM, which means semantic domain. And there is a relationship set between them. They are always related to each other. These two sets, SIN and SEM, they are related to each other by the relation set, which is known as satisfaction relation. Okay. So for a given specification, so thus for a given syntactic domain specification, and for a given model, the specification is this one, the implemented model is this one, semantic model. And if there is a satisfaction relationship, then I will refer to as this. This means that whatever the specifications have been specified, the model has been implemented, and yes, there is a relationship between the two. That is, the specification is there which satisfies the semantic domain, and there is a satisfaction relation between the two. So this is the way how we just refer to these things. Now, whenever I will develop a system, it will always be through a hierarchy of abstractions. So at each stage, like we take something from the previous stage and we add something to make the next or succeeding stage. So the different stages in this entire system development activity, these stages are what? These are the requirement specification stage, functional design stage, architectural design stage, detailed design stage, coding stage, implementation stage. So this formal specification language or formal techniques concept, these can be used at every stage of the system development activity. The models which we have talked about, when we have started learning this subject. So at each stage of this development activity, we can use this formal language concept to document the SRS document so that we can verify the output of one stage, whether it conforms to the output of the previous stage. How do we build a model? We first stage by stage, we build it, right? Like this, we build it. So we always need to check whether the output of this stage has, whether the output of this stage has conformed to the output of previous stage or not. So this documentation, how can I do it? I cannot write like 200 lines of code, take a printout and give it to the client. He will not understand, right? And also, I cannot write just simple verbal language and give it to the development team. It will be very much difficult for him to go through so many lines of normal English writings. So you need to remember that SRS document is that document which is talked about, or which is used as a reference both by the client and by the development team. So formal specification language is used so that it is somewhat, it can be understood both by the development team and by the client. And in a way, I can also formulate and write whether the outputs are being developed as per the order or not. Okay. So if I talk about this syntactic domain, so it consists of what? Alphabet of symbols. And it also consists of a set of formulation rules. In order to construct these formulas from the alphabet, it consists of some formulation rules, and some formulas are used to specify any system. Now, if I talk about semantic domain, there can be different semantic domains. There can be abstract data type specification language to specify the algebra theories programs. There can be programming languages to specify the functions from input to output values. If you talk about distributed system specification language, you have learned about the concepts of event, state transition sequence, synchronization sequences, orders, state machines. You have learned about this in compiler design, like NFA, DFA, state machine transitions, sequence transitions, event sequences, state transition sequences. So semantic domains can be anything. It can be in the form of programming languages. It can be in the form of this distributed and concurrent system specification languages. It can be in the form of abstract data type like algebra theory and so on. And what is this satisfaction relationship SAT? Now, suppose given a model of a system, it is very much important to determine whether an element of the semantic domain, whether it is satisfying the specification, whether it is satisfying the syntactic domain. It is very much important. Now, this satisfaction is done using some formulas, and these formulas concept, or the way we form a relation between the seen and the same, we refer to as the satisfaction relation. Now, we can describe the system's behavior. Sometimes, like some specifications, they describe the system behavior. Other specification, they describe the system structure. So sometimes we need to describe the system behavior. Sometimes we need to describe the system structure, right? So separate specifications are there to separately describe these things. So two broad classes of semantic abstraction functions are defined. That is, one class preserves the system's behavior and another class preserves the system structure. So two broad classes of this semantic abstraction functions are there. One will refer to how the system behavior happens, and one will refer to how the system structure happens. Okay. So now we talk about this like model oriented approach and property oriented approach. Which one is better? We will now see. So as we have said that formal methods are usually classified into two broad categories. One is the model oriented approach and another is the property oriented approach. So in model oriented style, in this style, what happens is one defines a system's behavior directly by constructing a model. We construct a model and we describe the system's behavior. Like in terms of, you can say relation, function, tuple, sequence, and so on. And what happens in property oriented system, the system's behavior, it is defined indirectly by stating its property. And this happens what? This usually happens through the use of axioms. I hope you have learned about axioms, because in database, you should have learned about axioms when you were learning about this normalization chapter and all. So a set of axioms are there that the system must satisfy, and the set of axioms which they satisfy and which they do not satisfy, depending on that, by stating the properties, they construct or they model the system, or they define the system behavior. But here in model oriented approach, they define the system behavior by constructing a model. And like yeah, so this was the main concept about like model versus property. And if I talk like which one is suitable and all, if I talk about requirement specification point of view, then property oriented approach is more suitable. And if I talk about system design specification view, then definitely model oriented approach is more suitable. So for system design specifications, model oriented approach, and for requirement specification, this property oriented approach. Okay. And the reason for this different distinction is why I am saying that use model oriented approach in order if you want to design something, and use property oriented approach if you want to specify the requirements. Why I am saying it is that property oriented approach, they specify a system behavior not by what they say about the system, but by what they do not say about the system. So property oriented specifications, they permit a large number of possible implementation scope. And like on the other hand, this model oriented methods, they do not support any sort like suppose initially we know that the customer requirements, it undergoes several changes as the development proceeds. So for these sort of things, if I do a model oriented approach, then even minor changes to the specification may require me to change my entire model. But if I follow the property oriented approach and I use some formulas and axioms, I can do the minor changes in some logic and just change that part of my formula and all. So for specifically for initial customer requirements, when a lot of changes undergoes, then the property oriented style is generally preferred. So this is the reason why two sections are there. That is for designing your model, you need to follow the model oriented, and for doing the requirement specification project for your software which you are developing, you need to follow the property oriented approach. Okay. Up to this one, does anyone has any query? Anyone has any query? Yes or no up to this one? Okay. So the operational semantics of a formal method is the way how the computations are presented, and different types of operational semantics are there according to what is meant to be run by the system, and how single run can be made or group runs can be made in order to describe the behavior of a system and all. So first one is the linear semantics. So in this approach, what happens is a run on the system is described by a sequence of events or steps. Okay. Next is the branching semantic. So here, using some directed graph approach, the entire run will be done, and the nodes of this graph, they will represent the possible states in which the system can move on to, on setting, specifying, or satisfy certain condition. How the system will move from one state to another, it will be specified. What happens in this approach is all these concurrent actions, they are enabled, and the concurrent actions, they are assumed to be taken together. So here, after satisfying certain condition, the system will move from one step to another state, then from that step to another state, like this. But here, concurrent states or concurrent actions will be enabled, like will be performed together. And the last one is partial order semantics. So the semantics, those are described to a system. Definitely, it's a concept of a structure of states that satisfies a partial order relation among the different states of the event. Now, events will always occur due to certain ordering. So this concept, when it is applied, that certain precedence ordering is there, after which the states or the events of my product will be performed, this is known as partial order semantics. So these four are the types of operational semantics, which that is the way the computations will be presented. And so the single run of the system is done, or the runs are grouped together in order to describe the system. So these are the four ways how we do that. Next, we will talk about the merits and the limitations of the formal methods. if I talk about merits, why the formal specification is there? Because it has a well-founded mathematical base. So whenever a mathematical basis is there, it is always easier to modify, it is always easier to prove, it is always easier to reason or to question and to understand. They have well-defined semantics. So whenever we have well-defined semantics, that is, we have well-defined states or events that will occur one after the other in order to perform the entire product. So obviously, it becomes easier for the client and also for the development team to understand. So whenever some events are there, some executions can be made. So feedback can be obtained on the basis of the events or the features of the system, the events that are specified. So a prototype or a toy working model of a system, we can make it, we can provide it for immediate feedback on the behavior of the system, and if the feedback is good, I can do the rest of, I can complete my entire system. And if the feedback is not good, I will not go for the further processing of that system. So like this. So these are the merits of why the formal methods is there. And now what are the limitations? First limitation is difficult to learn and use, obviously. Whenever you are studying relational algebra also in DDBMS, you are having some trouble in order to relational calculus, relational tuple calculus you are studying, you were having some difficulty in order to represent the SQL queries in the form of relational calculus. But if it would have been supplied to you that write it in the form of SQL query, the problem which was given to you, you were able to write it more easily. So this is the concept. Mathematical implementations, mathematical formulas will always be difficult to learn and it will always be difficult to use. And also formal techniques are not been able to handle complex problems. So when we have complex type of problems, it is very much difficult for the formal techniques to handle this. So these two are the main limitations, but still formal specifications does not replace the informal description or does not obsolete them. They actually complement them. That is, firstly, some formal definitions are required, then some informal definitions are required. So both are required when we want to build one entire product or one software product. So I cannot say that formal methods are not needed. It is needed. So formal methods are needed and informal methods also are needed. Both of them have their own usage, have their own importance, and these two cannot compensate each other. They are complement to each other. Okay. So now we will talk about the two specification styles, that is in the property oriented approach, which is the most famous likable approach, because for requirement analysis specification, the chapter which we are reading about, we understood that property oriented approach is the best approach and not the model oriented approach for the requirement specification phase. But if we go for the design phase, the next chapter which we will talk about, for that the model oriented approach is the best approach. So there we will learn about different type of model oriented approaches. Okay. So now under this property oriented approach, two specification styles are there. One is axioms, so axiomatic specification. Another is the algebraic specification. So one is the axiomatic specification. Another is the algebraic specification. So for property oriented approach, two styles are there. So in the axiomatic specification, what happens is the logic is used in order to write the precondition and the post-condition, and then it is used to specify the operations of the system in the forms of axioms. So I will write the precondition. I am talking about this one, axiomatic specification. I will give an example also to understand. I will use the logic in order to formulate the precondition, then I will formulate the post-condition, and using this precondition and post-condition, I will specify the operations of the system, and these operations will be specified in the form of axioms. Now, what are the axioms? We will have to talk about that, right? So what are the precondition and what is the concept of post-condition? The precondition is basically the conditions that must be satisfied before an operation can be successfully invoked. We all know that. Suppose in order to take admission in a BTech college, you need to be 12 pass and you need to have physics, chemistry, maths in your 12th paper. So this is a precondition. And the post conditions are what? The post conditions are those conditions that must be satisfied when a function completes execution for the function which is considered to be executed successfully. So post conditions are those constraints that are produced on the results after the function execution is done, and preconditions are those conditions that need to be satisfied in order to execute the condition. Okay, so less than 3 minutes is there. So what I will do is I will just share the attendance first, then we will continue with the class. So is my screen visible to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so everyone please record your attendance. So those who have recorded your attendance, you may leave the class.